At the time this video is released, Aidan Milburn's self-produced LP, Pandora's Box, will be my most listened to album of 2026. That's because even though it's only been out for a few days, Aidan asked me to help him capture an album movie months ago. A music video for every song on his album, and we'd only have weeks to get it done. I hopped on aboard, and the ride has been stellar. I've worked on a few film projects with Aidan before. We've been friends since our first year in university, both of us with backgrounds creating videos on TikTok. Our shared enjoyment of cinematography and Quedeca's music led us to make music films, visual stories that accompanied his songs Don't Mind Me and Pretty Privilege. Last summer, I saw Aidan create his first EP, Bittersweet. Right after Bittersweet came out, he locked himself into a new creative process and an incredible challenge, making his first self-produced album. I feel like it's important to contextualize my connection with this music before I review it. I am not an objective observer with no skin in the game. I will be excited to share the ideas this album inspires for me. I will also be truthful, insightful, and curious in my analysis. Even after sitting with this album for the better part of 3 months, it continues to surprise me with new emotions, concepts, and sounds with each listen. I'm writing this essay to document my perspective on this album, and to share this perspective with anyone who wants to engage with the work. As I break this thing down and share my thoughts on it, please keep in mind I've got no confirmation on this album's true meaning. All of this is subjective based on my experience listening to the music. What I'll say out the gate is that this album means a lot, and I don't think it'll only end up meaning a lot to me. Aidan's unique world-viewing lens shines through on these tracks, weaving a narrative on accepting the burdens life presents to us in a way only he can. Whether you're listening for entertainment, narrative, or an overall experience, this album delivers. The impact it's left on me is real. There's no denying it. Here's my take on Pandora's Box. Track 1, Pandora's Box. The intro track is how we meet our main character and begin to follow his journey. The synths, percussion, and dramatic rhythmic breathing will be recurring elements in his story. The speaker's character arc is the focal point of the whole project, and when we're introduced to him, there's a sense of epic scale in this expedition he's going to undertake. There's also a lot of anxiety coming through. As the song grows, it builds suspense. Whatever is going to happen, it's clear it means a lot to this character. Then we hear a box being unlatched. We know the title of the project, we know that's Pandora's Box. Still, there's a mystery of what this character is going to release into the world. What is this person's Pandora's Box? That's what carries us into track 2. No Turning Back is a heater. This song does a lot to characterize our narrator while delivering as a hip-hop track. The synths we got in track 1 are elaborated on. We get a strong bass line, and through Aidan's vocal performance, we learn what's important to this character. He's opened the box, so there's no turning back. He's got to see his potential through, which is greatness. This writing is awesome, and it helps us dive further into the album. Speaker is confident, full of belief in himself, and bestowed with glorious purpose. There's no turning back. Realized that shit when I was 1/6. That was the first time that I saw the 6. Used to have dreams, now I ice my wrist. The performance grows in confidence, talking about all he's learning and how he's leaving others behind. There's a desperation peeking through the facade early on. It comes through clear with, don't think this world is gonna last all that long. Everything is burning around me. There's something really present in these lines. The pressure of seeing news of horrible events that seem to grow worse day after day is so much that it makes young people feel like we have to do something now, before it's too late. The speaker wants to live out his dream as an artist, no matter the cost. Give me a backstage pass, I had the guts to open the latch. He's telling the gatekeepers to let him in. This is his audition for the big leagues, and he's owning the stage. He had the nerve to open the box, knowing it would wreak all sorts of negativity on him. The burdens of responsibility and success, the possibility of failure, the loss of his sense of self. Everything's at risk. By the time we get to the midpoint of the song, it's clear this character is scared, desperate. His breathing is heavy, charged with a lot of energy and fear, but he presses forward and delivers an incredible performance.
Hey, turning back is a gift. I cope just to reminisce. Maybe spite is a gift. The box show me how to live. Nah, it's forming just beneath my ribs. Yeah, I die just to get a glimpse. Deal with these demons just to get a hint. My curiosity is spent. Fuck it, open the lid. On a hope at the end. Please let the world spin. Please let the world in. Please burn my skin. Please let these ties spin. And we'll come back again. I'm about to tear the city up. It ain't no accident. It ain't no accident, cuz
The box showed me how to live. I love this section. These lines have no hesitation. The speaker is committed. He's going in accepting that he opened the box and that it'll take sacrifices to see through his choice. As he accepts the world he's in now, as it burns all around him, that fear returns stronger than ever. The reality of having to leave behind his comforts, the sacrifice of dying just to get a glimpse of what his Pandora's box can offer him, and the potential of losing his friends along the way, all of it's overwhelming. He questions what can make him think he could handle it, tries to cope. If it gets rough, sand that shit. If you get hurt, bandage it. That mindset can't carry him past the weight of the future. As he admits the full extent of his terror coursing through his whole body, the crazy production leads us into the final, reflective section of the song. This character thought hope would come out of the box along with all the other evils, like Pandora before him. It didn't though, and he needs to find something that can fill that void. The desperation that comes through at the tail end of No Turning Back leads us perfectly into Sense of Self. The narrator is in his own head, needing answers. It's as though he's speaking internally to an alter ego or future version of himself. That's until the verse comes in. This song explores how opening the box has led to struggles in the character's physical and mental health. He's fighting to hold on to his spirit, but there's that feeling that he's running out of time to find answers. The production on this song is straight out of a memory. It feels like we're exploring the speaker's mind, and the contrast between the bouncy, almost upbeat instrumentals with the existential lyrics makes it feel like there's a lot at stake. The ending of this song confirms that the reflection period can't last forever, as the speaker's distorted vocals tell us, tick tock, and we're given a dark, heartfelt segment of this story. This character's need for purpose above all else is a point of conflict when moving through a giant, complex world. His questions linger as we move into Universe Sailor. This interlude lets us tune in with where this character's at. It's a fun beat that leads us into this funky section at the end where kids are speaking in Russian for some reason. It's kind of cool. I like how this song gives us some space and time to ruminate on the first act of the album. So far it's been a lot of internal conflict and not a lot of cheeriness. Universe Sailor keeps us moving forward while giving an interesting characterization to who this person is as a wanderer, which is a lot different than the driven, purpose-filled person we saw in No Turning Back or the reflective, sentimental individual on Sense of Self. We on the Same Team holds up as my favorite song on the whole album. It's ambitious in how it flows between different musical ideas while leading us toward the turning point of the album on Paralysis. Even with all its switch-ups, it's groovy the whole time, and always carrying us closer to the themes of the song, to the heart of it. This is the first song to heavily feature string instruments like violin, and the feeling of summer comes through in abundance on this one. The pace and energy on this track is infectious, always changing, and it's really the first time we're getting what feels like purely happy vibes for any extended period of time. Something's hidden behind that happiness though. It feels like the narrator's desperate to be happy here, trying to convince himself that we're all on the same team, aren't we guys? Like, we'll help each other out no matter what, yeah? Like, come on, we're all in this together. But that's not really the truth he's living. Ever since he peeked inside the lid, his naivete has been morphing, disappearing. When this last verse hits and he's repeating that he's stuck, what I see captured is the loneliness of not having anyone else to understand what he's seen from opening the box, whatever the box is in this case. Maybe it's just the loneliness of being an other in what feels like an unsafe space. We might all be on the same team, but when we're all so different in our values, our experiences, in how we express, how can we ever find true allies, establish true trust in this world where we're so separated from each other? Especially when you factor in all the ways systems seek to divide us. Class, race, gender, religion, all these methods of putting people in their place, keeping them at odds, it seeps into every interaction we could ever have. It seems to be too much for our speaker here. The end of this song strips back all the excited energy, the happy strings, and the living rhythm. A lone piano accompanies his words, followed by a Spanish-sounding guitar as we're led into track 6 with thoughts of travel and curiosity.
Travel is rooted in curiosity, a necessary risk whenever she pulls from.
Paralysis is a really fun song. I have to say, this one took the most time to grow on me. I wasn't the biggest fan of especially the first half of this one for a while, Man, that glow up hit though. This is an absolute, yeah, this is really good. This is storytelling right here. The start of the song reintroduces the anxiety breaths, the hoo-has that would make Smash 4 players flinch in terror. The bongo drums and percussion are dramatic, and so are the vocals. That chanting from the first couple tracks is back. I mean, shoot, I'm even thinking of like Get Out here. I'm thinking of, yeah, I'm thinking of Get Out, like the chanting on Get Out, you know what I'm saying? We also get some Tyler the Creator inspired rapping on this one. The storytelling is really direct here, with images of a sleep paralysis demon and lyrics referencing the fine line between curiosity and greed. The narrator is filling his flaws with vanity, distancing himself from his family, concerned with seeming big and important more than his actual substance. This first verse reads like what could become of the speaker if he continues on his path without learning a lesson. Success, fame, big shows, money, but always a demon lurking on his existence that he can't get rid of. His dream future ruled by a cyclical life possessed by ego, anxiety, and stasis. All the character flaws that we explored in tracks 2 through 5 point toward the narrator becoming this person. And that's what the speaker very well may fear the most, which is why the switch up on this track is so triumphant. Instead of finding himself stuck in this future, the production lets us turn back the clock. The synths reverse, and the speaker's allowed to give himself a chance to pull himself from this reality before it's too late. He reflects on the truth of his character should he forge his path with only the obsession of success to guide him. Then, the omen of the sleep paralysis demon reveals itself to be the being that handed him the box. Which makes me wonder, is the box how he ends up escaping this demon, or is this entity taking further control by handing him this responsibility, taking further control over his life? The desperate breathing on the track steadies itself and slows before finally stopping as we fall into Tartarus. Fell into Tartarus gives us some time to ponder all the questions paralysis leaves us with. This is a new realm. It's trippy and disorienting, and then heavy. There's an interesting lean into the future on this section. Technology, lasers, bleeps and bloops that eventually guide us somehow into the past. We're put into the frame of mind of our speaker once more as he stomps through the weight of what he's been discovering about himself in the first half of the album. When the switch up hits, it's like light streaming through clouds. Whatever was unlocked in paralysis, the speaker seems to be levitating with this new answer for himself. He wants to go far away from where he's been, and he makes it to a plain full of birds and sunshine, a natural world where he finally meets the myth of Pandora, for real. Tale as old as time is Pandora's song. We're free from the future, spending time to reflect on the past. It's kind of Dune-esque, with our speaker traversing into a memory of someone from history to finalize his education, to renew his worldview and confirm what he has to do next. This song brings back the happy strings from We On the Same Team. There's a violin idea that plays throughout this song. It feels like marching through the summer. I mean, just go outside and listen to this song. Touch grass while you're listening to this song. It's awesome. The opening lines confirm that this is Pandora's song, as the speaker channels her personality and perspective for the first 3 verses. As Pandora grows up, she's confronted with questions about travel. The big one being, if she could see the whole world with the push of a button, would she press it? This makes me think a lot about our world today. We have the entire planet at our fingertips in so many ways. Social media networks, Google Maps, live updated encyclopedias only button presses away. We don't need to earn our knowledge. It's handed to us. Our eyes digest the information without our bodies needing to go through the process of getting there. That doesn't make us smart though, nor is it a replacement for real experiences. Being able to have access to the whole world at the push of a button is not a gift, it's a curse. Throughout this song, Pandora is struggling with the box she's been given by Zeus. Her challenge, or tragedy, is that she knows her fate. She wishes she could be free, but like the speaker, she's stuck. She will open the box, has opened the box, will always have opened the box, and there's nothing that can stop that. It's who she is. She's too curious about what's inside. Her choice in this album, in this story, is to run away, to attempt an escape of her destiny. The reality of unleashing evil upon the world is too much for her, and she feels she has to make this choice. The speaker embodies Pandora, and we see how this plays out when Pandora does her best to flee. It feels like she might make it, until, just as time reversed on the synths in Paralysis, it reverses again with the strings here. Pandora can't make it out. Her story and her myth shows the speaker what he needs to see so that he doesn't become the version of himself we saw in Paralysis. He's not quick enough to escape the demon. He cannot run from his destiny. He must embrace it. How he'll open the container and chase his ambition is his choice though. He must do it of his own accord. That's the realization that brings us to Mask. Mask is the transcendent song on this album. This is where the speaker showcases the lesson among all his worries, doubts, and fears. What he's learned comes through immediately. No matter what you say, I will wear a mask. This song explores ideas that, while universal, are so specific, and I love that. I suspect I can connect with many elements of this speaker's identity. We might have different experiences and perspective colored by how we respond to, a variety of inputs. Still, I have a personal image of the masks I've put on as a mixed only child. These masks have evolved as I've come into adulthood, and there's always this question of whether I'm capable of being myself. My defense mechanism for being othered growing up was always to be able to fit in when necessary, to prove my value, my goodness, to demonstrate how capable I am. Those were my masks. I think everyone's had one, or many. This song is about reclaiming the mask you wear, turning the defense mechanisms that shape a person into a form of expression. I'm getting ahead of myself. On this track, the speaker takes ownership of the mask that makes everything about him look better, feel better, be better. He was born to wear a mask. It makes him more colorful, more expressive, more powerful. Why shouldn't he wear it with pride? Why undo all the work his identity did to create the version of him that's here right now? Why rep only what he was born with when he could put on all the experiences that shaped him and let them lift him into the future? We're told all the time to be ourselves and that's enough. But for some, the burden of a Pandora's box is too much for their natural selves to handle. That reservoir of potential, promise, of hope, it's not going anywhere. So we must enlist the tools at our disposal to carry the weight, a personal narrative of purpose to carry us through our leap of faith. The synths tell us all we need to know. It's triumphant, it's epic, it's glorious. The lesson has been learned. The speaker understands how he might bring his dream forward with him without losing his sense of self. He needs to embrace that his truest self would take on the challenge. The last verse confirms this, as he details how the masks he's been given as a kid haven't helped him. There is one mask he's carried with him all along, the one that comes from within. That's the mask he's claiming, and it makes him want to dance. He asks us to join him in his rejoice as he embraces his whole self. The curious, the vain, the powerful, the greedy, the cheerful, the bold, all of it. The last song on the record is named for the Greek goddess of hope, Elpis, the last thing that refused to come out of Pandora's box. Now that the triumph of Mask is complete, with the speaker holding the knowledge of how he'll operate from here on out, wearing his mask, he needs to complete his transformation. His story's not done yet. He ruminates on the box that was handed to him, asking the version of himself that he sees in the starry night sky, did I live up to your expectations? It seems like this is a different version of the alter ego than we saw in Paralysis. The discussion they share is all about expectation. He's still got questions about how successful he's going to end up being. He still wants that success, but he understands he's only going to take it on as himself, wearing his own mask. The instrumentation is grand here, with trumpets sounding over the speaker's questions about whether he did enough. His conclusion is that if he could, he'd do it all again. More affirmation that this character has found a truer confidence than he displayed at any point before this one on the album. He knows who he is now and how he needs to operate. He's ready for the final confrontation of the album. Those loud breaths come back, threatening to take over before the violence silence them. Pandora's voices come back to protect the narrator as he sings, imbued with the renewed power of his mask. He's now a friend with his future self, no longer afraid of the sky crushing him, but using that consolation self as fuel to transform into a new him. It's time for him to do it all again. For the last verse, it's clear he's a different person. His voice, supported by this epic guitar section that we haven't heard anything of before, just comes in. So heat. Oh my god. I actually had to listen to this verse so much to hear what he was actually saying. Eventually, I got there. The speaker concludes that hope doesn't come yet. It arrives at the end of this race. He'll carry the box and the weight of the hope within until it's time for Elpis to emerge. The last question we're left with is a great one. Did he know what was in the box all along? It makes you think, was this all just an exercise for achieving self-discovery? Or has he unlocked a way to reach his potential? As he latches the box back up, we're left with only our thoughts as answers. We'll have to wait to find out for certain. That right there is my most recent interpretation of the album. When I first heard this thing front to back, my reaction was way different. I felt like the songs were less of a linear story, more of this emotional roller coaster, oscillating between songs I was calling dark and then other songs that I felt were defined by their light. As I've sat with this album, though, running through it again and again for this review, I've come to see it as a journey through all sorts of different textures of darkness. When this character comes out the other side, what remains is the knowledge that we carry dreams bigger than ourselves. It's not easy. It's untreaded ground for all of us. But there is a way through. There is a narrow path. I've wanted to make videos like this one for a few months now, and I've had this idea for a format which would let me talk about my favorite elements of storytelling. When I'm reflecting on a piece of media, whether it's a movie, a book, TV show, or in this case, an LP, I would always be able to score the work in terms of the characters, the plot, the style, the emotion, and the lessons and themes that I take with me. So, as an objective observer with no skin in the game, here's my review of Pandora's Box, the album. Starting off with my thoughts on the character. And kind of characters, there's a lot of alter egos on this one, and also Pandora is an element that we have to consider. The main character of Pandora's Box, though, he's the strength of the story. Aidan was able to integrate a lot of emotion into his narrator, and whether people care about this guy is really going to shape how listeners view the album. The best character moments come in No Turning Back, Paralysis, and Mask, where the narrator's troubles and flaws are at their clearest, most specific, and most heightened. I feel like this character's development is really tangible and super real. Moments of growth are earned, and there's plenty of conflict for this character to wade through. How the album repurposes Pandora's story for a young man facing his destiny is really incredible, and it pays homage to the truth that seeps from the myth of Pandora. My thoughts on the project's plot have shifted the most since my first listen. I think this plot works on a few levels. There's a clear line for us to follow, and the sequencing of events is compelling. As much as I'd be interested to explore more about this character outside the vacuum of his mind, this project's really well contained and focused. There's just the right amount of fat to make the story feel well-paced and forward-moving while allowing for moments of style and reflection. My main question is in how I'd like to see the stakes in the story felt in the real world a little bit, or just more of how it relates to Pandora's myth in the real world, in reference to the myth of Pandora that we understand. We got a good balance between the fantasy world and the real one here, and I can appreciate that a lot. I'd be curious to hear how listeners' expectations of this work jive with what the LP presented to them. Maybe there's a version of this plot that reaches for more perspectives, and maybe adds more clarity to how the story engine works. Who knows? When I'm talking about style, I'm talking about the craft that goes into this thing. And stylistically, this album rules. There is so much fun instrumentation here. The layers in these drum sections and the full tactile feel of them is standout. The synths also go crazy. Before Pandora's Box, I'd only heard one self-produced song from Aidan, and that was the closer on his Bittersweet EP. I thought it was his best work on that project, building nicely and making a great use of space with the melodies and background harmonics. I knew he had a really natural understanding of music, of flow and melody, and creating emotion from sound. What I didn't expect on this project was all the new instruments he experimented with. He's using strings, drums, bass, and a ton of different samples in ways that I've never heard from him before, and it's all really coherent. If I've got to be critical, there were some vocal sections I wanted to hear more clearly, especially in all the grandness of Elpis. I wanted some of those messages to be really front and center. I famously don't hear song lyrics correctly all the time, though, so that could just be a me problem. I can also tell that some of the experimental elements that we see here are going to be taken even further in Aidan's future work. I think songs like We on the Same Team and Mask can be inspirations for more complex and varied tracks when they're called for. Highlights in the production come through on We on the Same Team, the second half of Paralysis, Mask, and Elpis. I mean, honestly, this also is true for, like, basically every song. Like, let's just be real. Like, there's a standout production moment on every single song here. when I was talking to Aidan and I told him that some of the sections on this project felt like a movie score, he said he wanted it to feel like that, like grandiose and epic. And while I'm no expert on music production, my ears are telling me that he delivered. I know Aidan's strength as a producer will only grow from here somehow. Man, the way I was jumping up and down the first time I heard this joint, though, like, this music had me grooving and moving, and that's what we like to see right there. Absolute W's all around. That brings me to the emotional resonance of it all. This is the most subjective part of my scoring system, and I absolutely need it. Because sometimes you don't require anything more than how you feel about something to tell whether it's important or not. When the second half of No Turning Back comes in, I feel that. When his voice distorts at the end of Sense of Self, I feel that. I feel the whole expedition of emotions we get on We On the Same Team. Like, is he talking about himself, the world, someone in particular? No matter what my answer is on a given day, there's something so universal about these songs that really pulls me in. When he starts rapping on Paralysis, culminating in that crazy reverse synth section, I'm in tune with the build. And on Tale as Old as Time, I'm playing an air violin, dancing along with the entire song. And let me tell you, I'm always going to lock the fuck in for Mask and Elpis. I've got more reason than most to be invested in this album. That does not change the fact that this music smacks on all sorts of levels. You don't need the lyrics open on your phone to know that he's talking. Then when you do go and pay attention to the message, it lands. I groove to every one of these songs. The only parts it took me a little longer to get into are the intro track and the first half of Paralysis. Again though, I wasn't really listening to that one at first, I'll admit. The interludes all got their own sauce to them and make for a great listening experience overall. Pandora's Box is a project that knows exactly when to stick with an idea, when to move on, and when to do something new. It's very intuitive like that, and that's what makes it connect on the level that it does for me. I think the thing that I can say that's the most impressive on this record is how Aidan isn't afraid to just repeat something that he wants to say. Everything that's being said is not being elevated or taken down to a more basic level than what it needs to be said at. The message comes through exactly how it was thought by the artist, as far as I can tell. And that's really cool. That's really important to have, in my opinion, on the emotional resonance side of things. Finally, it's time to talk about the lessons, the themes. What sticks with you after that final track is done and you're left to go about your life, reflecting on the project only when it comes back to you. For me, the heart of this story is Mask. We each have our own struggles, mountains to climb and seas to cross. We're introduced to the speaker's struggles throughout the first 6 tracks. Where he makes the turn toward Mask is in the middle of Paralysis, when he's able to revert from his future self in all his vain success to sort out what he can actually do about his situation. Trying to carry the burden of the box, feeling its weight and how unsustainable it is to carry it in the light of modern survival. Once the speaker sees how his interpretation of Pandora tried to escape her destiny to be a carrier of the box, he understands that he can't run. What he faces, the unrelenting desire to be an artist that he can respect, will be a great challenge. He'll need help to take it on, and that might be hard to come by. What he does have, though, is the power to wield his defense mechanism, his values, his worldview as a shield. And defense mechanism shouldn't come first there, just for some reason it did. It's more about wielding his values and his worldview as a shield, as a mask, with resilience and true understanding of the self, not minimizing the task of striving for greatness, but rising to meet it at the summit with all the unfairness life might hurl at him. Once he's done this, he can look back on his attempt and say with honesty that he tried. Wherever the chips fall, he wins. He's found a way to take on the task ahead. Once he's into Elpis, his victory in how he'll take on the future has been stamped. The question that remains is what happens with Elpis, the Greek personification or goddess of hope. I have to admit that in my memory of the Pandora myth, hope was the last thing to come out of the box and then it joined the human world. That's not really the case though. Hope is the last thing left in the box. It's trapped inside, or stays inside. Apparently there are a few different interpretations of this. The waters aren't entirely clear. Like, we got Muddy Waters, 85% accuracy, VGC players will know. In some versions, the box contained good spirits, and when they left the box, they disappeared from humanity. In others, the box contained evils, and hope was the only thing left inside. And then in others still, it's the only evil left in the box, implying that, like, a false, unsubstantiated hope is not unleashed on the world, which is a good thing. Maybe in this version, hope is pointless, or maybe it's actually a good thing, being saved for a day when it can be used more effectively, when there's not so much evil in the world. My interpretation of how it's being used on this album is that throughout the story, the speaker has been waiting for Hope to come out of the box and join him on his quest for greatness. It hasn't come, yet all these other pressures and responsibilities and negative omens have made their mark on his life. Up until the ending of Elpis, he's waiting for Hope to join him. That's when he realizes he needs to close the box back up. He's unleashed his ambition into the world, and he doesn't need Hope to face it. It can stay in the box because he has true faith in himself, not built on hope, forged in purpose, intention, and will. Which is crazy because I know this dude rocks with Andor. Like, rebellions are built on hope. They say it in, like, the movie, in the show. Like, Rogue One, bro. Like, were you not? Okay. Whatever. Like, seriously, though. I feel like there is an understanding that hope doesn't need to come into the fold just yet. This isn't the time for desperation or prayers to the gods. This is Aidan's time. He knew what was in the box all along, and there was never going to be any turning back. Now, here are my scores for each category. For the character work, we got a 9.5. For the plot, a 9. For the style and craft, an 8.5 out of 10. For the emotion, a 9. And then finally, for the lessons and themes, a 9.5. Add up these scores right quick, multiply by 2, and boom, my first ever story score, 91 out of 100. That is an exceptional story right there. Hell yeah. Hey, Editing Alex here. I got some updated information after writing up my whole review, which is all of Aidan's official lyrics for the entire album. Turns out he's got Universe Sailor lyrics written down in Russian with codes embedded within, which is just so cool. There are also a few lyrics I got wrong after listening to these songs a ton. Namely, during Mask, I thought bro was saying, I will wear a mask. Like, I will wear a mask. But he was really saying, we all wear a mask. So, that's kind of awkward. My interpretation still feels valid. I like that this review is my reaction to just the music. So, I'm going to leave it as is. After reading the lyrics, though, I enjoyed the narrative, character work, and world building of this album even more. I wish some of this got brought to the surface even more with the final mix. I felt like in Mask and Elpis especially, there were some really critical moments I wanted to not have to do any deciphering for, not have to listen extra hard for. But, the fact is, the storytelling is extremely present, and the lyrics are there for anyone who's got zero ability to decipher what people tell them, like me. So, it's great. Something I really enjoy about my system, which goes back all the way to my days of giving Avatar: The Last Airbender characters video game stats, is that my perception of a subject can change over time, and that's something that I'm really proud of. I'm proud of being able to look back at something and saying, hey, I think I was wrong, and here's why I think I was wrong, yada yada. It'll be fun to reflect on this one before giving it another serious listen in the future, and to see where I get with it. I'll have my knowledge of the album movie by then too. Speaking of which, I will not be talking extensively about Pandora's Box, the album movie. As objective and fair and correct as I was talking about my roommate's album in its sonic form, which is an absolute heater, as we just uncovered, it would feel off to analyze a project where I was doing cinematography things, getting all sorts of insight about how the visuals are supposed to be complementing the album, all that jazz. What I will say, though, is that we designed this thing with a lot of intention and improvisation. I'm really proud of how we use symbols, our settings, and character action to show how this man with a mask finds his true identity. At the time I'm writing this, I haven't even seen the whole album movie. There are going to be surprises when I watch it for the first time on May 8th, and lessons for the next one. All I feel right now is gratitude to be part of delivering this project in the way Aidan's always wanted it seen. This might be the last project Aidan and I work on together for quite a while. Life tends to do that, and we got some chapters to write on our own. I've got no doubts about the paths we're following, and I can't wait for the next chance we get to lace them up and start lobbing each other assists again. I'm gonna miss this, though. I can't lie. Now, if you haven't peeped this album, lock the hell in. Go watch the album movie on the biggest screen you can find. Or at least wipe off your phone screen, chuck the brightness up with some AirPods in. Please enjoy it at its fullest potential. It's a really cool ride, I have to say, even though I haven't seen it. The album itself is a cool ride alone. But the videos are gonna go stupid, I already know. Oh my god. I hope you've enjoyed my first long form video like this, and if you're a first time viewer, go drop some insights for me in the comments. We're already on to the next.